Alright, so how do you save $1,000 instantly? Well, you decide to fix the old turbo that you already have. The turbo that we have is just so rusty, and the actuator was broken on it, and those things are minimum $150 to $200. So I figured, I should just buy a new one. Once I realized they were like around $1,000, I decided I might give it a go and try to fix everything on this thing and just make it functional for at least the first year, see if it's a project that I actually like and I want to invest into. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. We're fixing the stock turbo. Let's get going. No fucking way! Got it! Well, that's not very successful. Would you look at that? Managed to get this nut off. There's just nothing left of it. I basically cut it off, and then I ripped it off with the channel lock. Pretty impressive. And the stud is still in good condition, surprisingly, so that's amazing. Oh my god! We actually made it. Crazy, eh? Got the stupid thing off. So these bolts were so rusted that they were an awkward size. I guess they were supposed to be 10 millimeters originally, but I ended up using some 3/8 wrench that was kind of smaller than all the other 3/8 wrenches I had in the toolbox, and it turned out to be pretty good. Had a nice tight fit, and with the impact of the hammer, it was coming off pretty nicely. As you can see, the nuts have already been removed on the actuator. Well, that's because the actuator has been removed. I wanted to see if it actually still worked, and I couldn't if I didn't remove it because the VNT unit was all jammed up. So I wasn't sure which was jammed up, if it was the actuator or the VNT unit. But yeah, as you can see, the bolts on that little bracket are non-existent. So I figured it might be easier if I didn't have to try to turn the head of the bolt with that bracket on, have more grip on it with the channel locks, and so I just burnt them off. And then once the bracket was off, I could actually remove them. I was pretty surprised I got them off. So finally we got all the bolts and studs out. Took a while. Some of them were really basically just stubs at that point, nothing left of them. These two bolts holding on the actuator were just gone, so had to cut them off and just use the trusty channel locks, which worked great, and just with the torch, heat contraction, it gets them loose. Pretty amazing, really. So now you want to get into the exhaust housing and free up those VNT, well, the VNT unit, because it's stuck.
So these bolts were like wicked tight. I could see that they weren't really big too. They're really tiny little bolts, and I was putting a lot of torque on these with this ratchet here. And finally they all broke loose. They were really sticky, but got them all out without breaking them. And this is when I realized that it's actually, I think it was the housing of the turbo that was so rusted that it was keeping it from turning. It was like hooking on the outside housing, because as you can see there's little notches on that ring there. So that might be the reason it was sticking, but once cleaned up, it was turning really freely, and as it should. So.
Not sure if this is exactly how it was, but now it's moving freely. So that's what we want. So I just got the unit back in. Really helps to align the spacers with a pick like this, straight pick. This is amazing. But other than that, nothing special. Yeah, just making sure that this moves freely, and that's all.
So here I'm just smacking the compressor housing back onto the exhaust housing, and it's really rusty, so it's not just like sliding back on. I made sure to have it flat.
Okay, so we just got all the bolts back on. These are some stainless bolts, so hopefully they don't rust out as bad. So it's back on, spinning straight. It's not rubbing on the housing. Good stuff. All we have to do now is reinstall the wastegate.
Also worth mentioning that I am pretty embarrassed by those two tack welds. Pretty terrible, but that was kind of the end of the day, and I was tired of working on this, so that's how it ended up being.
Alright, so everyone's going to agree that that was maybe pushing it a bit by welding the actuator back on, because it rusted right off. But it doesn't really matter, as long as it works. There's a big hole in the back, but the vacuum is on the other side. We'll just do a little test here. Alright, gotta get proof that this thing still works. Still works. So there you have it. That's pretty much proof that pretty much anything can be fixed if it's already in a semi-good condition. Basically, the actual turbine has like no major play in it, and the fins were not touching the housing, so that means that all of that is fine. If in a case where that was already scrapped, well, it wouldn't really be worth fixing. You'd have to get a rebuild kit, I suppose, and then I would probably opt for a new turbo. But the actual turbine is still fine, so it's all about releasing that VNT unit so that it doesn't well, it doesn't spin too quick. But yeah, so it's fully functional now, and should serve well for a couple more miles at least. So thanks for watching, guys, and hope to see you next time.